and welcome to another video. This week we have legs, the thing that everybody always skips. The greatest thing about doing legs, guys, is it kind of completes the body and engages your core throughout your workout. Skipping legs is actually not just skipping legs. There's a lot of people who just don't like doing leg day, just kind of solely based on that reason. It hurts to walk. You know, they do tons and tons of weights on like squats and leg press and everything else. And there's just injuries, there's sore knees, ankles, joints, everything. And actually doing legs is an overall good body exercise in general, just to again, it strengthens your core, your lower back, your upper back. Pretty much everything is engaged when you're doing legs. And that's really the key, is to kind of almost a cardio workout as well when you're doing legs. And it's just a good thing to incorporate into your routine, just for overall fitness as well. As always, we are joined here with Matt from Lakeshore Elite Fitness. Matt, what's going on?
Not much. I absolutely hate legs. To do legs correctly, it takes a lot of work, so a lot of people skip them. And if you do the workout that we're going to do today and you do it the way that we do it, you're probably not going to be walking pretty well for a couple days. So, but that's the way you should feel if you really hit legs pretty hard. First, we're going to start off with calves. We're going to be doing calves, we're going to be doing quads and hamstrings all in one workout. So typically calves kind of get left out if you leave them towards the end. You're really tired, you're drained, and you just skip them. So we're going to do those first. We're going to do seated calf raises to begin with, which is going to work more the soleus muscle of the calves. And then we're going to do some standing calf raises, which are going to work more the gastroc of the calves. Next, after that, we're going to go into leg extensions, really warm up the legs before we get started. A big mistake, what a lot of people do wrong when training legs, is they go right into their heavy compound movements and don't really warm up, which is going to obviously increase your risk of injury, which we want to prevent. Next, we're going to superset hamstring curls with straight leg deadlifts, or some people call them Romanian deadlifts. Another thing too is a lot of people will put all this work into doing the quads, and then hamstrings kind of don't ever get the work that they deserve. So we're going to do those first while we're fresh, and then we're going to go into Smith machine squats, close stance hack squats, and then we're going to finish off with leg presses.
Alright guys, we'll see you in the gym.
Alright, the first exercise we have here is seated calf raises. This really directly hits the soleus, which is underneath your gastroc, which is commonly considered the calves. The biggest thing here is to make sure you get a nice deep stretch and a nice contraction on the top. With any exercise, the way you position your feet is going to hit the muscle differently. So here is going to work both gastrocs equally. If I were to point my toes in, it's going to hit the outside, and then if I were to point my toes out, it's going to hit the inside.
And that's pretty much the same for any calf exercise, guys, is the way you position your toes. Again, the biggest thing is you want to kind of stay stable on the balls of your feet, and really, like Matt said, make sure that you're going down all the way, and really stretching throughout that entire movement. You'll see a lot of people who go up really quick and really hard, and they do a ton of weight on calves, and then they just drop it back down and they miss half the movement. And as you see, the key to building actual nice proportionate calves is make sure you're hitting all the heads and making sure that you're stretching throughout the entire movement.
Now we have standing calf raises. This is going to put a little bit more tension on the gastrocs, a little less on the soleus muscle. It also allows you to use a little bit more weight to really overload the calves. So here again, remember, deep stretch, really stretch the muscle, get up on your toes, get a good contraction of it.
Again, guys, there's really not a huge difference between this one and the last one. It's mainly just to try to vary it up a little bit. There is a little bit different angle when you're completely under the weight, as opposed to having it out in front of you like in a seated calf or like a donkey calf raise. But for the main point, again, it's the same principles as the exercise that we did before, making sure that you're going slow on the way down, all the way stretching, and then having a nice hard contraction at the top.
The reason why you would want to do multiple exercises is more of a knee bend, like with the seated calf raise is going to work more in the soleus, and then more of a straight leg is going to more emphasize the gastroc. Next, we move on to leg extensions. The reason why we start with leg extensions really is to really thoroughly warm up. A big mistake a lot of people make when training legs is they kind of go right into their heavy compound movements. There's a lot of bodybuilders that you read stories about them and being injured and wishing they did things differently. There's a story about Branch Warren who used to throw 315 on the bar and just start squatting. Recently, in the last couple of years, he tore his quad tendon. So really, you want to make sure you really warm up on these. On these, really get a full range, go all the way down. I prefer not to completely lock out. It is a little rough on the patella tendon if you do this repetitively. So you still want to get a good contraction on the top, but really slow, controlled, not completely locking out is best on this exercise.
And again, guys, this is one of those exercises that kind of the same principle for your entire leg comes into play again. If you keep your feet pointed more outwards, you're going to work more of the inside of your quad, whereas if you keep them facing in, you'd be more of the outside. So depending if you're looking for more of that sweep or that inside definition. Typically, though, most people will just kind of keep the feet neutral because, again, at this point in the workout, we're doing more of a warm-up, more of just a quick burn to try to hit the muscles, get them warmed up, and get them ready for the more compound movements to come. Next, we're going to be supersetting hamstring curls with, I call them Romanian deadlifts. Reason being is you crack your knees a little bit. You can call them stiff leg deadlifts, but you really don't want to completely lock out your knees because then it takes more of the emphasis on your lower back and less on your hamstrings and your glutes, which we're trying to activate. So with the hamstring curl, here you're really focusing on feeling your hamstrings working, good stretch on the bottom, nice, slow, and controlled. You want to keep your hips against the pad, and I prefer to kind of point my toes towards my body, which is going to activate the hamstrings even more, and you'll definitely feel it. So really emphasize on pushing your toes towards you, and you'll feel it more. Now with the Romanian deadlifts, the key here is to really push your hips back and really elongate the hamstrings. So with the curls, you're working kind of more the lower part of the hamstring. Now with this exercise, you're working from origin to insertion. So you're going to work all the way from about the top of your kneecap to your glutes on this exercise. The biggest problem that I see when people do this exercise, especially the curls part, guys, is make sure that you're going all the way to the bottom after you after your contraction, you bring the weight up. You'll see a lot of people do a lot of partial reps on these, and you really will get much more of a squeeze if you're going all the way down. Think of it almost as like the bicep of your leg is how I think of these when I'm doing them. And if you don't stretch it all the way out at the bottom, you're not getting that full extension on the muscle. So what you really want to do is make sure it's going all the way down and then squeeze it all the way back to the top. And that's one solid rep. Don't do partial reps. You're really going to lose out on a lot of the muscle that you're trying to work if you do that. As far as the deadlifts go, again, like Matt was saying, it's about keeping your hip backs and really kind of thinking about what muscle you're working. So if you're thinking about your hamstrings, you're really going to end up using them a little bit more, and you're going to end up figuring out where it burns and where to kind of keep your hips at to keep your form right on these. If
you don't feel a stretch in your hamstring on the Romanian deadlifts, you're definitely doing it wrong. So if you don't feel it, then you're doing it wrong, and you're going to have to go back to the drawing board on it. Smith machine squats. I like Smith machine over your traditional barbell squats just because you have a little bit more control in the movement and you're able to really kind of feel your quads working more. It kind of takes out the hamstrings and the glutes out to an extent, and you can really focus on feeling your quads work during this movement. That's why I really like the Smith machine.
The biggest thing with these guys is, again, your range of motion. This is, again, another one of those leg exercises where, especially regular squats, even Smith machine squats, where you'll see guys just completely load up the bar and then do quarter reps or half reps. Make sure that you're going at least parallel. You'll see me going a little bit below because I like to try to go all the way to the bottom. I just feel it more of a stretch in my quads when I do it that way, and I feel like I'm incorporating my hams and my glutes a little bit more of an overall compound leg movement when I go down all the way. So that's the reason that you'll see that. The other thing is, as you'll also notice, me and Matt are also wearing belts. It's not because we're doing heavy weight, it's just a precaution. And make sure that if you have had lower back problems or whatever, that you make sure that you're doing this form properly, but you're also trying to minimize your risk of injury by wearing protective belts or things of that nature.
One of the things I see wrong all the time with the Smith machine squats, besides the depth, is foot position. So the way you position your feet, you want them out in front of you a little bit. A lot of people kind of keep in line with the bar, and then their knees are driving way past their toes, and then you're going to start having some knee issues with it. So if it bothers your knees at all, I would highly recommend that you put your feet a little bit further in front of you, and that should alleviate it. Next, we have close stance hack squats. Once again, these allow you to really focus and feel your quads. The reason now we're going close stance is to really hit the outer sweep of the quads. So before we did more of a shoulder width, which is going to kind of hit everything equally. Now this is going to put a little bit more emphasis on the outside sweep of the quads. So it's very similar exercise. You may be asking why you're doing 2 squat exercises, but there's a rhyme and a reason why we're doing it.
Right, and again, guys, especially if you're training for anything like bodybuilding related, the biggest thing that you'll see in guys that win and guys that lose is the difference in sweep and legs size and definition, overall proportion in their legs. Most guys, especially at the amateur and lower levels, have 0 to no leg development, and so having those legs and having them be proportionate as well as have the size is really going to set you apart if that's what you're looking to do. So the reason that we put our feet in, again, is like Matt said, we're working more of the outside sweep, which is what gives you that kind of the bigger leg look as opposed to just kind of the overall just thick, dense leg look.
The thing to really work on here is it's not about the weight. You'll see, especially at our gym, people will come in and load 300, 400, 500 pounds on there and then go and do quarter reps. That's not stimulating muscle growth. It's also going to kill your knees. And the other thing is your foot position. You can't see it very well on here, but you want to position your feet once again that your knees aren't driving past your toes. If you're doing that, you're going to really tear up your knees, so be careful with that. We finished off quads with a 50 rep rest pause set. So what you do on this one is you go to complete failure, you rest, and then you keep going until you hit 50 reps. You can choose a bigger number if you want to hit 100, but you really want to choose a number to go after, because if you don't, fatigue is going to set in and you're just probably going to end up quitting. So really pick a number you're after. If it takes you 3 or 4 rest pauses, it takes you 3 or 4 rest pauses. But the reason we're doing this is just to really finish and burn out the legs and get as much blood in the legs as humanly possible.
Again, guys, this is another one of those exercises where you'll see guys put 1,200, 1,300 pounds on, loaded all the way out to the max, and they'll, if they went to where I went, they'd end up wearing it. That's one of the biggest things, is you want to make sure that you're getting a full stretch with your quads. As you can see, you're really trying, that's all you're doing is burning on your quad. When you're doing any exercise like this, the goal is to stimulate muscle growth and to feel the burn and the pump and to get yourself to exhaustion through the muscle, not using momentum or anything like that to try to get all the weight moving. This is one of those exercises that, yes, you can use more weight on because it is a seated leg press, so you will be able to use a little bit of weight. Just don't go overboard. Make sure that if you're doing it, especially as a burnout, that you understand the purpose of what you're doing here. It's a burnout. It's to completely exhaust the muscle. It's not to see how much weight you can lift on this one.
Once again, you'll see this, like Aaron said, people load up thousands of pounds and then they do these tiny quarter reps, and really all they're doing is tearing up their knees. So use a full range of motion. Try to, your legs should be about 90 degrees on the bottom.
So that was legs. As you saw, we started with calves to get those out of the way. Went to some extensions and then did some supersetting with the curls and the Romanian straight leg deadlifts. Went over to the Smith machine, did some squats, did some hack squats, and ended with a rest pause of 50 leg presses. Again, guys, the biggest thing that we're trying to show you here is that the weight isn't what's important. It's the form. It's feeling the contraction of the muscle you're trying to feel. But overall, this workout is pretty intense, especially if you keep your pace up there. You'll notice that the weight you use goes down a little bit, but that burn and that just the overall pump that you get in your legs just keeps going up and up and up. And that's really why we did the 50 at the end, was just to completely just deplete the legs in their entirety, as leg press is a good compound movement. You'll see a lot of guys starting with their compound movements. We chose to finish with them just to make sure that the weight we could use wasn't our maximum weight. Again, that helps us prevent injury, especially if you're working alone, you don't have a training partner. Sometimes doing your pre-exhaust first will actually keep you in check and your ego in check a little bit while doing these workouts so that you're not risking yourself for higher injury.
Right. One thing I always tell everyone is a warm muscle is a strong muscle. So too many people, too often, they learn the lesson way too late in life when they have bad knees and bad backs and all those things, the importance of warming up. So doing the leg presses, the leg extensions first, really warms everything up, and then following that with the hamstring. So everything's ready to go by the time we get into the compound movements. Once again, the weight wasn't as heavy, it was a lot higher reps, but your body perceives it to be a lot heavy. And the thing about legs is you're on your legs all day long, you're walking, your legs are always being stressed all the time, so are your calves. So in order to really optimize any type of gains from your workouts, you really have to hit it hard, or else you're really, really wasting your time. If you walk out of the gym after legs and you're not exhausted and your legs aren't a little wobbly and your goal is to gain size in your legs, you've really missed the point of the workout. So you should be fatigued, your legs should be killing you. Right now standing is even a little difficult, so it should be very, very, very challenging. And once again, if you notice, we changed the exercises. We'll talk you through the different leg positions, all those things, depending on where you point your toes, where your stance is. All those things are going to either hit your hamstrings differently, your calves differently, and your quads differently. So once again, high volume and change things up to hit the muscles optimally.
And one thing that we actually did not include, guys, that is very, very important, is before you start doing any leg exercise, and even after you finish, like for me personally, because of, my knees aren't the greatest, well, I always do like 5 minutes of bike riding. I try to do it before and after legs to kind of warm up and cool down my knees, my joints, my muscles, to kind of just relax and get them back into the flow of regular activities. We didn't hit on that before, we just went right into it. So make sure that, again, you guys are stretching, you're doing maybe some light 5, 10, 15 minutes of cardio before you start, just to make sure everything's as warm as it can be, especially if it's cold where you live like it is here. Make sure that those muscles are ready to go. You've got a little bit of a sweat going, your heart rate's up there where you need it to be, so you're completely ready to do this. As always, we're here at Powerhouse Gym in Grand Haven with Matt, CEO of Lakeshore Elite Fitness. Go ahead and check them out on Facebook. You'll see all the links below. Make sure that if you guys have liked these channels, we did just switch over to our own fitness channel now. So make sure that you're throwing us a like and a subscribe and telling your friends about it, sharing it on Facebook. Any exposure we can get to try to build our separate channel is really going to help us. As always, Matt, is there anything else you got before we go?
I'm good. Train smart, train hard, and get the results.
All right, we'll see you next week.